She thought she won a Ferrari. But the HOA gave her something else. They called it the Ferrari Gala, but that wasn't the real name. To the outsiders, the influencers, the lottery winners, the weekend millionaires who were lucky enough to receive the invite. It looked like a charity event inside a private HOA enclave. Red carpet, flashbulbs, free champagne. Vivaldi echoing through the fountain courtyard. And in the center of it all, parked under a custom-built spotlight rig that ran on silent solar panels. A Ferrari SF90 Spider, cherry red, no plates, keys on the hood. They said someone in that crowd would drive it home that night. They just didn't say who would be walking home in her place. Nina Elwood wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't rich, wasn't famous, and definitely wasn't on the Trust Circle guest list. She had gotten in with a badge she printed herself after finding the invite in a trash can at the law office. She cleaned at night. Her plan was simple. Sneak in, take pictures, pretend to belong, for a moment, just long enough to feel it. The dress she wore didn't zip all the way. Her heels were half a size too big. But under the golden lights of the Circle Pavilion, no one noticed. Or rather, no one said anything. Because in this community, silence wasn't just a habit. It was a requirement. She had barely made it to the cocktail bar when she saw him. Logan Reese. The man behind the initiative. The one whose name was whispered in property deeds, backroom real estate deals, and private HOA security contracts across the entire eastern seaboard. He was leaning against a matte black Lamborghini Huracan STO, sipping bourbon like it was water. He smiled at her, and just like that, Nina forgot the plan. The raffle began at 11:11 p.m. All the guests gathered near the pool deck, now lit from below in blood-red LED strips. A masked woman stood beside the Ferrari, holding an envelope. The announcer tapped his champagne glass 3 times. "The winner," he said, "has already been chosen." Gasps, laughter, confusion. He opened the envelope, smiled, and pointed straight at Nina. "She's here tonight, wearing a slate blue dress, second row, right next to Mr. Reese." Everyone turned. Nina froze. She had never entered anything. She hadn't written her name on a single slip. Logan whispered into her ear, calm and amused. "They don't want a driver. They want a story." And that's when the lights cut. The entire complex went dark for 8 seconds. Then, emergency backup kicked in. The music stopped, the fountain froze mid-spout, and the Ferrari? Gone. Vanished. Nina was still standing in the same spot, but the people around her were different. Fewer, closer, all men now, no laughter, just blinking earpieces and blank expressions. One of them touched her arm. "We need you to come with us." She pulled away. "I don't even own a license." He smiled like it was funny. "You won something better." They took her underground. Not metaphorically. Literally. An elevator in the back of the pavilion opened into a tunnel. Stainless steel walls. No buttons. No sound except the hum of descending silence. When the doors opened, Nina was somewhere beneath the HOA clubhouse. The hallway was lined with photographs, all of women, all in blue dresses, some smiling, some not, all beside the same Ferrari. Logan appeared again, this time in front of her. "Some people collect art," he said. "Others collect legacies." Nina backed away. "What is this?" He tapped the wall behind him. "The car's not a prize, it's a key." She ran, or tried. The hallway curved and shifted, lights flickered, then turned red. A siren blared once, low and long, like a submarine diving. She pushed through a steel door and emerged in another garage. This one empty, cold, and strangely clean. Except for the mirror. There was a floor-length mirror on the far wall. No frame, no reflection, until she stepped forward. Then it showed her, but not her, a different version. Polished, smiling, sitting in the Ferrari, surrounded by men she didn't know, but who all wore Logan's face. She turned to run again, but the door had vanished. No handle, just smooth concrete. Behind her, the mirror started playing a video. It was her, but it wasn't. She was speaking into a camera, holding the keys, laughing, thanking the trust circle for changing her life. Then static, then silence, then a single line of text, "You're next." Nina doesn't remember getting back to her apartment, or how the dress got torn, or why the soles of her feet were black. But the next morning, a valet ticket was under her door. Claim, Ferrari SF90 Spider, reserved in your name. Pickup time, 3:17 p.m. Location, HOA Trust Pavilion, Bay Level. And in her inbox, a new email. No sender, no subject, just a video file. She pressed play. It was footage of her walking into the gala. Then, overlaid audio. Her own voice, whispering something she didn't remember saying. "I'd give anything to live like this." And the final shot? Her reflection in the Ferrari's window? Smiling back before she even got in. It wasn't a dream. At 3:17 p.m. sharp, the Ferrari was there. Same model, same color, same missing plates. It idled at the far end of the HOA's underground garage, spotless, shimmering, and positioned perfectly between two concrete columns like it had been airlifted in. No driver. Just a single valet, standing motionless beside it with a clipboard and mirrored sunglasses. "Miss Elwood?" he asked without turning his head. She nodded, half expecting him to laugh. Instead, he opened the door. A leather-bound envelope sat on the driver's seat. Inside, a letter in ornate cursive. "Drive it for exactly 17 minutes, then stop and listen. You are not alone in this car. The voice will explain everything." Nina told herself it was a prank. She told herself the engine would stall, or the tires would explode, or someone would jump out yelling, "You've been scammed," with a boom mic. But none of that happened. At 3:19 p.m., she turned the key. The Ferrari roared to life like a beast inhaling fire. Her hands shook as she pulled it out of the garage and into the wide HOA avenue, perfectly paved and lined with ornamental birch trees. It glided like it knew the road. 6 minutes in, the radio turned on by itself. A woman's voice. Software familiar. It was her own voice. "Don't stop driving," it said. "There are cameras on every corner. This isn't about the car. It's about you." Nina gripped the wheel tighter. The turns ahead were blinking in the car's HUD, like it had already mapped the path. "You're not the first to win," the voice continued. "And if you're not careful, you won't be the last version of you either." The glove box popped open. Inside, a key card, a thumb drive, and a photo. The photo was from the gala, except she wasn't in it. Another woman was. Same dress, same face, but subtly off. Like someone had tried to reconstruct her from memory and got the soul wrong. At minute 17, she arrived at a tunnel marked Maintenance, Residents Only. The voice stopped. Silence. Then the HUD blinked 3 times and the car locked itself from the inside. The tunnel wasn't a tunnel. It was an entrance. To the mirror lot. That's what they called it in the files Nina found later. A facility below the trust circle, unknown to the public, owned entirely by a shell company tied to HOA security enforcement. Inside were over 24 cars, all exotic, all perfect, and all paired with a mannequin. Not store mannequins, recreations, replicas of past winners. Wax, skin, human hair, realistic eyes, all dressed like they'd just walked out of a trust fund's Instagram page. Nina nearly vomited. A man stepped out of the shadows. Not Logan, someone older, hunched, white gloves. "Do you understand now?" he asked. She shook her head. "They don't need you to drive the car. They need the car to drive you." "What the hell does that mean?" He gestured to one of the mannequins. The tag on its neck read, Model 06.01, Julia Lee, deceased. Each of these cars is a signal booster. The system inside tracks more than just location. It tracks compliance, expression, memory reformation. "You're being rewritten in real time?" She backed away. "You're insane." He pulled a file from his coat, her medical records, childhood therapist notes, social media history, deleted texts, deepfake samples. "We already have your voice," he said, your gait, your scent. "The AI only needs about 3 more hours of exposure to make the transfer seamless." Transfer to what? To the new you. Back at her apartment, nothing was normal. The mirror in the bathroom had 2 reflections. Her dog growled when she walked in. And her neighbor, Mr. Glasser, who never spoke a word in 5 years, leaned out from his door and whispered, "Don't go back." She locked herself in, pulled her laptop out, plugged in the thumb drive. Dozens of files. Video surveillance from inside House 11, a location Nina didn't recognize. Every clip showed a woman just like her, behaving slightly off, picking up cups before they fell, answering questions before they were asked, turning corners seconds before someone appeared. At the end of the folder was one final file. She clicked. It was her voice, but the words weren't hers. "I've accepted the contract. I understand the obligations. I surrender my likeness to the Trust Circle initiative, date stamped, 2 hours in the future." Her phone vibrated, unknown caller, then a text. "The car is waiting. You signed already." She didn't run. She bolted. To her friend Micah's apartment in the city. One of the only people she trusted, a cybersecurity engineer who had once reverse-engineered a HOA smart home system just to prove how vulnerable it was. Micah didn't ask questions. He just scanned the thumb drive, pulled the metadata, and froze. "This drive is bleeding packets," he said. "It's not storage. It's a beacon." Nina stared at him. "They know where you are. They've known this whole time." That's when the knock came. 3 sharp raps. She looked through the peephole. Logan, smiling. Logan's smile wasn't just confident. It was empty. He stood in the hallway of Micah's apartment like he lived there, hands in pockets, chin tilted slightly forward, the kind of posture you don't learn unless you've practiced being obeyed. Nina didn't open the door. She backed away, one slow step at a time. "Micah," she whispered, "you said they can't find us unless—" "They didn't find us," Micah said, staring at the monitor. "You brought them." The USB was glowing, literally glowing. Logan knocked again, softer this time. "Nina, you still think this is about a car?" She didn't answer. "Do you remember the night you signed up for the giveaway?" he asked through the door. "That's the night you gave up the rights to your decisions." Micah yanked the laptop cable. Everything went dark. He opened a hidden panel behind his bookshelf, a hardline server tunnel he used for bypassing firewalls. He shoved the USB into it. "Buy me 90 seconds, he muttered. Nina stood frozen. The door handle jiggled, then silence. Micah stared at the data stream. "There's code here I've never seen. Like, not even theoretical. This isn't just AI, it's adaptive persona grafting. They're syncing your digital footprint to a behavioral replacement protocol." She blinked. "In English? You're about to be overwritten." Then the power died. All of it. Lights, screens, heat, gone. Outside the window, a blackout sweeping the entire city block. One by one, each window across the skyline winked out, like someone deleting a grid of lives from a giant control board. Micah grabbed a flare lamp and shined it at the USB. They're trying to flush the upload. We have... The screen flashed. Transfer complete. A chime, then static. Micah turned to Nina. What's your name? She didn't answer. He asked again. What's your name? She blinked. I think I'm Nina. But her voice cracked in a way that wasn't hers. Micah backed up, slowly. The flare lamp flickered, then shut off. Everything in the room began to buzz, a low-frequency hum, like feedback through bone. Nina turned her head slightly. Micah, she said with perfect calm, we need to go back to the car. Micah didn't speak. He reached into his jacket for his backup phone. But before he could dial, the USB exploded, not with fire, with light. A blinding burst that painted the walls white and then black again, leaving behind a silence so pure it hummed. When he opened his eyes, Nina was gone. No broken door, no footsteps, just absence. Later that night, the news reported a freak electrical event, a transformer failure. But Micah knew better, especially when his facial recognition software identified Nina's car giveaway as part of a test. 6 months later, at a Trust Circle investor event, a new brand was launched, NeuroTrust Mobility Trademark, a luxury ride-sharing fleet using fully autonomous vehicles and digital human brand ambassadors. On the stage, Nina Elwood, or rather, what looked like her. She spoke flawlessly, smiled at the right times, even referenced stories from her childhood. But anyone who had known her, really known her, would have noticed something was wrong. She didn't blink enough. She always paused 0.7 seconds before responding. And in the reflection of her sunglasses, you could see lines of code scrolling. Micah never saw the real Nina again. But 2 months later, he received a package. Inside was a toy Ferrari, Hot Wheels, red, no wheels. Underneath it, a handwritten note in pen that matched Nina's childhood writing. I'm not gone, just repurposed. It doesn't stop at me. Burn your devices. He never turned on another screen again. And somewhere beneath a luxury HOA, in a climate-controlled garage lined with red cars, a new mannequin was being printed, one that looked a lot like you.